What does the Tower of Babel tell us about diversity and unity? Here's your chance to find out. Welcome to Past the Pulpit, where we dive in beyond the sermon to look at life, love, faith, and community. Each week we ask of the preaching text what hopes, challenges, and passions lie at the heart of the sermon. Welcome to episode 16 from Diversity Unity. All right, here we are, Pastor Raewyn and myself. How are you doing, Pastor?
Doing good.
Good. We're glad you are able to tune in and hang with us as we talk about the Tower of Babel this morning. Yeah. Raewyn, would you read us?
Be happy to. Genesis 11, starting with verse 1. Now the whole earth had one language and one speech, and it came to pass as they journeyed from the east that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. Then they said to one another, "Come, let us make bricks and bake them thoroughly." They had brick for stone, they had asphalt for mortar, and they said, "Come, let us build ourselves a city and a tower whose top is in the heavens. Let us make a name for ourselves, lest we be scattered abroad over the face of the whole earth." But the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the sons of men had built. And the Lord said, "Indeed, the people are one, and they all have one language, and this is what they begin to do. Now, nothing that they propose to do will be withheld from them. Come, let us go down and there confuse their language, that they may not understand one another's speech." So the Lord scattered them abroad from there over the face of all the earth, and they ceased building the city. Therefore, its name is called Babel, because there the Lord confused the language of all the earth, and from there the Lord scattered them abroad over the face of all the earth.
So this is a very familiar story for all of us. You've heard it in children's stories. You've heard it at church. What are some of the main points of this story that we've heard?
So they were trying to make a tower from themselves to maybe escape another flood.
Yeah, that's right.
I got told that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One that I'm very familiar with, the most common one, is like they were working together to build their way up to God, into heaven.
Right. Instead of depending on God to come down, they're building their way up. Mm-hmm. Yeah. One of the things was, well, it's too bad that happened. Yeah. Right. It's too bad because we would all have the same language, and this was kind of a punishment from God because they weren't using their unity in the right way or something like that. And that was kind of a theme. Yeah,
and if they weren't doing that God would have just kept everyone speaking the same language and being one race, right? But because they were trying to find their way up to God, they were punished.
Yeah.
And so God punished the world, and the consequences of those punishments is that we have different languages, different races.
Yeah.
So that is interesting because as a child growing up, I just always accepted that to be
the interpretation.
The narrative there. Is that how it was for you too, Raewyn?
Yeah, I would say so.
I think there are some real subtle issues with that. Mm-hmm. And it creates a little bit of toxicity depending on like what the dominant culture is, where you grow up, whether colonization has happened, who do we look to as the standard,
the original,
the default.
Yeah,
what the default looks like.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've ever read any of Uncle Arthur's books, but many of those people in those books tend to be of one race.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. They are. That's very true.
Right? And so it does this thing for us where I think it's really subtle, but there's a standard. Mm-hmm. And that standard looks very Eurocentric.
Yeah. And that's that even comes through in language, right? Whatever the language. So if we're all speaking English or what have you, just the way certain things are portrayed about what is the default or what isn't, That's certainly true about gender, right?
Yes,
So
100%.
it's male pronouns, and females are expected to feel included in that, right?
Right.
That's just, you're included,
Yeah.
right? You may or may not say it, but
come on, guys. Right? That's all of us, guys. All of us.
Right. But it's true. The default is male, and unless you're doing the work or you're told to do the work or whatever. But the thing is, our brains don't automatically do that work. We don't automatically include ourselves when language doesn't include us.
That's right.
And even if you ask kids to draw a doctor or draw a lawyer or draw a nurse, or, and just pay attention to the gender that they do, they will go to whatever the default is.
I shared this riddle with my kids last week, and it's a riddle that threw me off when I was young. A doctor and his son were driving across the country, and they get in an accident, and they both die, and or the dad dies, and they bring the son into surgery, and the doctor sees him and says, "I can't operate him. He's my son."
Yeah.
And my kid, it just blew their mind. They're like, "But the dad died.
Yeah.
It can't be. The dad is gone." For the longest time. When I shared the answer to the riddle, which was really obvious to me because I've known it forever, it's the mom. It was like mind blowing.
Yeah.
Like, oh, of course, there's another human being that could be a doctor in this family.
Right. So we see it with gender, and it's true with ethnicity and culture too. Whatever the dominant language is, can become, there's subtle ways that is expressed as the default.
It may be that this particular story has fallen hostage to that, to this particular idea. So let's look at the story again, and let's see if there's any way to revive it and to speak maybe a different breath of life into it.
Yeah.
So I think here, when we're talking about what they're building, what kind of structure they're building, I think this is the first place where we can make some corrections that'll help us with understanding the story more broadly. And when we read it from the text, they're building a tower. Come, let us build ourselves a city and a tower whose top is into the heavens.
Yeah.
In this particular area of the world, these kind of the common structures there were known as ziggurats. So they're not temples, but they were built right next to the temple. You can find all kinds of photos of them all over the place. But these date as far back as 4000 BCE. So we know that they've been around a while. And they're built in such a way that they've got stairs and whatnot. And the stairs aren't for the people to go up to God, but for the gods to come down to the people. So it was a way of tempting the gods, having a more accessible route for them to get down onto earth so the gods could come and be among the people. Now, that particular idea, I think, changes a lot of stuff in my own mind, because growing up, I would just think these people were building it to go to God. They were trying to be God.
Yeah.
Where in this particular story, it's kind of backwards.
Yeah. Perhaps they're building a tower to have God come down there, and God comes, right? That's what happens next. God comes down.
God comes
to see
what's happening.
Yeah.
And they want this sense of legitimacy for who they are as a people.
Yeah. And they say, I want to make a name for myself, right? And
That's right.
Their fear is to be scattered. So back in Genesis 9, verse 1, it says, God blessed Noah and his sons and said to them, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth, right?
That wasn't the first time God said that, by the way.
Yeah. That's right. That was our very first command at the very beginning, right?
Correct.
Multiply, fill the earth. And here they don't want to fill the earth. They want to.
What they want to do is make a name.
Yeah.
Right? Let us build a tower to heaven. Let us make a name for ourselves. This is their goal. We don't want to be scattered across the face of the world. Yeah. Which stands in direct opposition to God's command to go. That's right. And multiply and fill the earth. Here, they don't want to do that. They want to stay together and make a name. Well, oftentimes in these kind of nations and these tribes in the kingdom means to create a sense of nobility among the land. Well, what does it mean how do we create nobility among the land? We conquer the land. Right? We conquer the other people. Right. Our people and our language
are the best, the greatest.
The greatest. We're going to dominate, everyone is going to speak our language. Everyone is going to be our people.
We're gonna
God's
we're
gonna
gonna be
come down.
empire.
We're going to be an empire, right? God's going to come down, the ziggurat. The gods are going to say, yes, you are the right people.
Yeah, and that wasn't the response they got.
Yeah, isn't that the irony? God did come down.
Yeah, God came down. It's like, I don't like your empire.
No, this is. They probably should, if they didn't know what God was going to say, they might not have built a ziggurat.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
What does God say? But the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the sons of men had built.
Yeah.
And the Lord said, indeed, the people are one, and they all have one language. And this is what they begin to do. This is what God says. Now, nothing that they propose to do will be withheld from them. What I hear here is God comes down and he says, in one language and as one people, this is what you choose to do. Is to try to make a name for yourself. It's not to care for the land, to steward it, to fill the earth. This is what you do when you all get together in one place.
Yeah.
God wasn't impressed by that.
Yeah, no. And that's so ironic because that is what we try to do. We do want to create an empire and we all want the same language.
Yeah.
We all want to have multi-campus churches. Right?
Yeah.
All listening to the same preacher.
Yes.
We all want to build, our empire, our name, that they'll know who we are, and to give it the best light possible. I mean, and we could do a lot of good doing that.
Yeah.
But is there a sacrifice that's made in doing that, and all having the same language and all having that uniformity? In the business world, right, you have all the McDonald's. They're all the same, right? They're all over the world.
You know what to expect when you go into one.
What's the sacrifice there? What do we miss out on? What do we lose? And what's destroyed by that? And maybe God, in this very early story, is sad for the loss that comes from this uniformity.
Yeah. Wow. I love that. What are we lose? What are we missing in this uniformity?
Yeah.
And God is saddened by that.
Yeah.
God is saddened by that. You're not doing what you're supposed to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're not living in a fulfillment of my calling for you to be in this world and learning and changing and having your story being told in whatever languages that naturally form from the spaces that you're at.
Yeah. And it's hard because we like what's familiar. And
We do.
And so my aunt actually lived in Papua New Guinea for a while. They were serving
cool.
at the university there. And she did her doctoral work at Fuller at that time in ethnomusicology. So she does music, and she was studying music, Adventist music in Papua New Guinea.
Wow.
And trying to help recover traditional songs that have been used for worship, because what often happens is that everyone ends up with the English hymnal, right? Or the hymnal, but in different languages, right?
Yep.
And so we're all singing the same music, and that's very comforting when you go around the world and I recognize this song, but then what's lost? What cultural expressions are lost by trying to all have the same music or the same language?
I'll just speak for our faith tradition. Like when we look at numbers all the time, like Adventism is growing, or Adventism we're losing people, and that worries us. But I don't know if it worries us other than from the fact that Adventism is not growing. And is that the right thing to be worried about? Or should the question be, is God's kingdom expanding even outside of the work that we as Adventists do? And be okay with that. People
do they all
enough.
have to become Adventist?
Yeah. At one time, we did all have to become Adventists, but I think as we grow, we realize, maybe God is doing things outside of our Adventism as well, and that's okay. And we're gonna have to be okay with it, because that is what God is doing.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. When we get into one space and uniformity is the goal, it's just not healthy.
Yeah.
I think that's the point of the story. I don't think God was punishing the people into diversity. I think God was probably coaxing us into a better way of the world. Don't you think?
Yeah.
In their attempts to legitimize who they were, was God, back to this question, probably a little bit more specifically, do you think God was punishing them, and in what way was God punishing them? Or is that just altogether the wrong way to look at the story?
Yeah, I think we have traditionally seen this as a punishment.
Yeah.
But I would like to call it a redirection.
I love that. Yeah.
That's a positive parenting,
That's positive
right?
parenting
Positive
right there,
discipline. Okay, let's not do this anymore, everybody. Go do that.
Here's
right?
something else we can do.
Yeah.
Raewyn, how do we live out this God calling for diversity among us? How do we do this fully? What's the best way we can go about it in our communities? Someone's listening along and they're like, okay, we want to be diverse, but we also really like what we're doing.
Perhaps the first thing is a mindset shift, right? That God celebrates diversity and God wants us to fill the earth in our unique languages and music and cultures. And just because someone's not doing it the way I'm doing it doesn't make it better or worse, right? And so I think the first is a mindset shift, and that really does help us, and then perhaps noticing and looking for things that are doing it differently and celebrating those. So like here at Lost Sierra, we have our contemporary service at 11:15 and we have our liturgical service. And we have a lot of different churches in the area, and some do gospel music, and so these are just small expressions, right? Or we have the Spanish church. We have lots of different opportunities, and maybe one practical thing someone could do is just go to a community that is not your own and attend for a week and just explore your feelings, your impressions, your responses. What is that experience like for you? And maybe that will help us also when we are in our comfort zone, notice and look for people who maybe this is not their native language or home, but maybe put ourselves out there a little bit more to experience other people's cultures. And you don't have to travel to do it. You have to go 1 mile down the street.
Right around the corner. I think that's very important. Go and experience different kinds of foods, make friends in different kinds of communities, and grow your knowledge base on different cultures and what their traditions might look like. And you don't have to all of a sudden be that people group savior. No, you don't need to do that. What you need to do is just experience it and get familiar with it and care for it. And I think as we do that, we can become advocates for each other.
Yeah, I love that.
Because standing near a people group is not the same as standing with a people group, right? I think we need to be clear about that, because sometimes we're like, well, this church is our sister church down the way, and that makes us diverse. Well, it really doesn't make us diverse. It just means we're all near each other. We don't get to really celebrate diversity unless we're willing to experience each other's cultures and be willing to listen and sit. And then when people come into our space, we can then recognize that our sense of worship and our community isn't objectively the perfect
one. It's not the default.
We're not the default. Yeah. So inviting people in and being okay that they may not appreciate music like we appreciate it. And that's okay. You live to learn. I love worship, praise and worship of all kinds. I mean, I can go into a church and they could be doing high church. It could be hymns. It could be gospel. It could even be, the contemporary new stuff. I'm in there mainly because I love the community of worship, right? I could do with or without the drums or an organ or whatever. But it's about being able to sit in each other's expressions and each other's space of worship.
And music is one way we do that. That gets to our hearts, right? And our heart language. And I think that's why it's so important to be respectful of each other, how we talk about each other, whether it's music or ethnicity or other cultural practices, that we're respectful and honoring of each other, even when we have disagreements. Like, that's not my style, or that's not my taste, or that's not my go-to.
Right.
But I'm so glad that that there's a whole group of people that love that and that connect with God that way.
It makes me think of Jonah chapter 4.
Yeah.
I know it's going to sound crazy, but the idea that people are most important to God.
Yeah.
And not so much our comfortable
Our booths.
Yeah. Right? So what kind of booths built by us could be laid down in order that we might be able to see people better?
Yeah.
And care for people and listen to their story.
Mm-hmm.
And when people share their stories and we legitimize it and we say, yes, that's an important voice in our community, it empowers that group and it empowers another group to rise up and say, my voice is important too.
Yeah, I love that. So thinking about Jonah again, going back to that story, how sad it was that he missed out on getting to know the people in Nineveh and celebrating with them and hearing their story and maybe tasting their food and spending some time with them, celebrating. I mean, they probably were having a feast and celebration that they hadn't been destroyed, right? And Jonah misses the party because he's sitting on the sidelines and still hoping that they're going to get taken out. And wow, do we subtly do that? Sit on the sidelines and hope those people will go away, or that won't succeed, or because we don't like it, it's not our style, or it doesn't fit our comfort. Can we find ways to celebrate even if it's not ours? I mean, Jonah's not going to live in Nineveh, right?
No,
he's going home either way. But
enjoy some of the food while see a mother care for her child, and a husband hold his wife, and friends share stories. That's universal.
Right.
We can do that. We can do that for each other, and we can learn from each other and respect and care for each other.
Yeah. I wonder if we could see, what if we saw travel, for instance, again, we don't have to go far. What if we saw that as a spiritual practice of whether it's traveling to the church down the street or to a different country, of seeing, hey, what is God up to here? What are the beautiful things that God has given these people that I don't have or I don't experience in that way? What are the stories? Where's the gospel in this culture?
You got homework. If you're listening, this is your homework. You get to go find a space to do some of this in this week. Get in there, engage. Where's the gospel here? And hopefully grow some fresh new bonds
and eat new food.
Hey, don't miss the party, all right?
Don't miss the party.
Don't miss the party. There's a lot of good things in this world that God would love for us to be more engaged in. And goodness that we bring and could be brought to us if we're just willing to engage more.
Yeah. Amen.
All right, friends, until next time, thanks for being with us. Be well.
Be well.